Okay, microphone, please. We have broadcasting, and so we need to use the microphone. Test, test. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's working. It's good when we have women who are helping us with the technical support. Thank you for coming here, and we'll start our session, our roundtable. You see its title on the slide. It's about the formats of management in the digital economy, and this topic is widespread, and at the same time it has not been functioning as a separate direction or instrument of implementation of managerial tasks. You see, when we pronounce the terms like digital platforms, we have a vision of roundtables, of sessions, of different sections, and it means that on the one hand we have big range of things to discuss, and on the other hand it means that we have still a lot of work to do. We don't have common solutions and decisions developed, and also we have intellectual management, intellectual governance here, and artificial intelligence, and these definitions are not familiar to everybody. The latest fakes on the artificial intelligence is that after the dialogue with the artificial intelligence, it wants to be a human being, and this famous chat GPT said that it wants to be a human being. My message here is that for all the speakers here, for all the presenters here, is that we should deliver this information, which on the one hand we know, which is quite interesting to us, but on the other hand it should be also interesting for the audience, and it's important to meet the expectations of the audience, and that's why we're here to understand this interest, to understand the common interest. So that's why I'm inviting all the speakers today to be oriented on the interests of the audience here, maybe to set some issues which are very topical for the audience, and to share the vision which we have as a theory, as a method. So I'm inviting all the speakers to have a positive on look. That's why I'm using the word positive. I think that it's very important to have a positive result of our meeting. We have only 1 hour and a half to discuss the platform technologies in management. Our first speaker is Yaroslav Kabakov, Strategy Director of the financial group Finam. So I would like to give the floor to Yaroslav Kabakov. Thank you. Good morning. I'm glad to be here. It's my university which I graduated from, and for me it's big pleasure to see my teachers, and it's honor for me to be the first speaker. So I will start with simple things. I represent a brokerage company which is Finam. It's also bank, it's also governing company, and it's financial sector. Financial sector is really very important. It's like ahead of everything in terms of transformation, especially if we're talking about digital transformation. It's the flagship object, and a lot of financial institutions are very productive sites to develop and to work on this, so that hypothesis. And here I would like to share with you our experiments which are related to the artificial intelligence. Over these years, we have been having a good team of data scientists. Please do not mix them up with Scientologists, though they are also very interesting guys. What I would like to point out here, the financial sector, we have interesting processes here. We have the process when a human being is squeezed, is abandoning the financial sector, and we should talk here about human factor, about financial analytics, and it's big challenge in terms of regulation, how to manage this sector, and in terms of its functionality for the company. If talking about the main stages we are facing now, GPT chats, well, artificial intelligence and GPT chat is really now a very encouraging thing. A lot of people are thinking about chat bots, and I would like to point out that our experiments with chat bot well, have been successful, but just in one direction. That chatbot can be effective only when we call for a manager to answer this or that question. And here we should answer some important questions. The first one is that the financial sector is really not so subject to standardization. A lot of questions regarding the financial assets and so on. Our colleagues like traditional banking sector more fortunate. Why? Because the bank credits, the bank deposits are financial commodities with all these standardized procedures and methods. And if we have a look at the developments produced by our colleagues, I mean chatbots for banks, they had more problems not with finding an answer to the question, but rather to identify the question in a correct way, the question from the customer. When you visit a chat bot of this or that bank, if you have a proper question in good words, the chat bot can be very efficient in answering your question. And also, there are some other questions regarding the terms, the intonation, the questions, the wordings. As for the investment business, it is on the opposite side. Sometimes even investment managers cannot answer some questions. For example, when Euroclear is going to defroze the assets of the Russian consumers, so it's more about psychology rather than some specific information. It is difficult to standardize and to automatize the whole process, but on the other hand, the questions which are related to communication are even more important and require much more energy from the companies, from businesses. Over these years, number of brokerage accounts have increased. We have 25 million of them open on Moscow Stock Exchange, and in this context, the volume of demands, volume of communication related to the communication with the customer is growing, and it is growing geometrically, especially taking into consideration what we have in 2022. What I would like to point out here, how artificial intelligence can help us. We see how our colleagues are developing. We have process analytics scientists, data scientists are very active in this direction, but if you have 100,000 people who work in your company, you can have this endless analytical process. You can constantly optimize the processes and some areas for improvement. But if we are talking about very traditional business, traditional companies, which do not have such big amount of people, the process analytics here, data science, is kind of limited. And the second aspect here is that, basing on our activity, we can resume and say that, first of all, we need to understand data which we have. We need to classify it, to make it clear in order to use it. One of the main problems here is that with some financial institutions, banks, telecommunications companies, which have a lot of communication with customers, and they have a lot of data which is stored geometrically and which accumulated and being accumulated geometrically, and it is needed to be aggregated. Main cycle, we are focused on communication in our company, and our data scientists and analysts started working with the analytics of clientele of customers. I think that you all get a lot of emails from different financial institutions, from different reviews, recommendations, and a lot of people do not like this, and majority of people do not need this information, and usually it goes into a spam box. So we started working with the ranging with the classification of the clientele base. We tried to identify different categories of customers, of clients, and we have been doing this over 10 years, and over these years, just 2 or 3 years, we have been able to deal with this task. Why is it so? Because our customers are changing priorities, plans, on looks, mindsets. Some people prefer to invest for a long time. Some people prefer short-term investment. So it's very dynamic. And sometimes this dynamic is very difficult to be traced. And we then get a lot of information on this. In terms of analytics, the first experiments were conducted on the analysis of these group emailings. We analyzed these emailings. We tried to select the best analytical methods, judging on the profile of the customer, and we saw growth, click rate and open rate. It was 2 times more on this emailing, and we became confident about the way we have chosen. And now we have around 280 products in the product range of our company. We have this product-based approach, so it was like a shifting process for our company. And in terms of the driver itself, well, you can understand the whole process. We do the analysis, we select product, we select the best time for communication, then we have these feedbacks from our customer, and then we start our analytical work. And you see, it's self-learning process for our system itself, and it's also influencing businesses. I can say that customers, in terms of the product range, are very important for us, and we have been thinking a lot what should be our focus, and we decided to use the term as the happiness index. Well, it's not this index of happiness which started in some universities. It is our company's development. It's about the satisfaction of our customers in the services of our company. So we analyzed the tonality of the communication, and we analyze if the customer does not need the communication, we stop communicating with the customer. So then we started to analyze the happiness level of our customers, if they're happy or not, and this base is developing in a very dynamic way. So we analyze what products they're using, and by products we mean investment products, learning products, information products, and some other products. So actually a lot of things, a big variety. You see here on the slide we have 2 customers. You see with different indices of happiness. You see which products they select, and by assessing this we can offer different kinds of products. It was very interesting to watch how the system was developing and how the system was giving recommendations. So actually we can say that this system is based on a recommendation system, and I think that you know this term as the recommendation system. It is when you visit some marketplaces, especially overseas, when you visit foreign websites, the website starts choosing the products which you are interested in. And we have done big way in this process, you can remember the time when you searched in your browser the word the fridge, and then next, for example, following 3 months, you had the fridge in your browser, in your history. But sometimes this connection between your demand and between what the machine gives you is not so clear. And in this case, artificial intelligence is developing and is doing very useful work. The manager does not need to explain for 30 minutes or an hour the plans, investment plans, financial plans. You don't need to explain, you don't need this long communication with the managers. It is the system which analyzes momentarily what you need, and then it gives recommendations and CRM systems when communicating with the customer. It is how we do. We have this happiness index, which is the main point for us. Then we see the products which the customer is interested in. Then we identify the most comfortable time for communication, and because of this, our call center has become much more efficient. Now we can understand at what time a person, for example, has lunch and what time is convenient. Which time options is more preferable, before or after lunch. Plus, this recommendation system defines the most interesting products for the customer. And then we have this feedback back from our customer. We see the level of loyalty, which allows us to manage the product range in a more efficient way. If talking about the development of the services we develop, in terms of digitalization, and it means for us that it's not also the manager who will receive the recommendations, but also the customer in his or her account. You can understand how clear our task is. It is to minimize the volume of man labor, but at the same time to increase communication to make it more efficient for the customer. If talking about the segments where we use data science and data analytic, it is first and foremost product divisions of the company, managers, some bonus programs in our company like Phenom Bonus. We have a boom in transformation of the company in terms of using analytical data, which is being prepared by our people. And I can say that now almost all major financial institutions are experimenting with such drivers, and they have challenges. Our colleagues from fellow insurance company said that for them it's really very important to find out a customer who needs insurance, really needs insurance. And now the activity becomes like more surgical, aimed at specific categories of customers, and it is elsewhere. If talking about some other things, I can say that we are launching a screener on the shareholder market based on artificial intelligence, which will take into consideration personal preferences of the investor and at the same time securities and precious securities which exist on different platforms. Thank you very much for your report. I think that 3 questions will be enough. Can I ask you a question? I've heard that you are offering around 280 products. Yes, it is 280 products. And my question is the following. For data science to offer this or that product, what number of parameters do you use? What parameters do you use to offer, for example, out of 10 or 15 products? Well, you see, we define the happiness index of the customer. It's from 70 up to 100 parameters, and judging on this, how we determine this happiness index, then we can determine the products which can be useful for this customer. Thank you. So you use the profile of the customer? Yes, we do. Some other questions, comments? You said that you are collecting data, aggregating the data, analyzing the data. How do you work with the data? First, you said the goals for your people who work with the data, or first these people search the information, sort the information. Now we have another situation. Finam was also based on fintech. I started working in this company in 2007, and we had a remote sale, remote processes in our company. I mean that the data is aggregated as per parameters set. You have portfolio of securities, you have preferences, data which is put into a CRM system, and you have history of the operations, transactions, and you choose specific analytical data which can be useful for you. We all have these parameters, but basing on the data collected and aggregated, you can create a new product or what? In terms of the creation of a product, you're right, we don't have a problem now to create a product. Actually, 5 years ago, there were different investment companies, different teams with absolutely different specialization. Now, no problem in creating any kind of product. The question is not about this. The question is about unification, which we have had on the financial market, and it's being transformed according to the reputation of the financial company. In 2022, for example, we saw how the issue of communication became the key issue in terms of business development. You can again create any kind of product. It is a question if this product is going to be popular among your clientele base. Why is it so? Because in terms of the product range, we have had an established market. I have offered to you, I think that if you have interest in this topic, I think that Yaroslav can give you a lecture in Leninsky Hall. He can really gather a lot of people because he is a very experienced lecturer. And our next speaker is Sergey Rizontov. Good morning, colleagues. I present IBS company. It is one of the major integrators on the Russian market, which has been existing here for 30 years. And we are an important company for different infrastructural projects. We have implemented a lot of platform solutions. If we have a look at what is happening on the market in 2022, we started to have a lot of changes in our understanding of the platform solutions and approach to the whole process. If historically the companies, especially Russian companies, considered their IT infrastructure based on the use of Western technologies. Now, when we have the process of leaving them the market, a lot of Russian companies are thinking how they can do import substitution. And here I can talk about the tendencies at the global stage. We have the process of a new look on the platforms, especially those ones which are being used in industrial and state companies, and that became a key factor last year. Number two is that we have always looked at the world trends, but in 2022 it became breaking moment, and a lot of people, a lot of companies started to think about operational transactions. They faced the problem of tripping and failing of some systems. So 2022 became this year when we tried to maintain the infrastructure which already existed. And after 2022, we understood that we need to have four directions. It is about import substitution and our tolerance to sanctions. It's also about information security. Without the information security, we have higher risks of implementation, of deploying. Then it is finance, and then it is personnel and how to manage the processes within the company. And taking into consideration these trends, we as a group of company IBS started to develop our own technical solutions which could allow to substitute such systems as ERP, SAP, which were very popular in Russia. Why we are talking about the necessity to replace SAP and ERP? Because now we do not have support of these solutions and number of people who can support them. Lowing, we have some outflux of professionals in these areas. ERP is a kind of configuration which based on SAP, and in Russia we didn't have products as SAP or SAP which could replace this program. So in 2022 we started to create our own concept for the development of the platform solutions. We called this project Federation of Federatia, and we presented it in 2022, and now we are considering how we can implement it in different sectors of the Russian economy. It is a kind of assembly of different kinds of products which are presented in Russia. We understand that despite all the technical solutions on the Russian market, still there is plenty room for improvement. Some vendors can be a good replacement, but again, there is no unified binding of all the devices, of all the products which can cover the necessities of all the companies. So we have set the task to organize a kind of club or platform which could combine the architecture of company. We decided to make a partnership of the developers to coordinate the activities and to reinforce their positions in developing of program products. And it should be a partnership of both vendors and integrators who are integrating these solutions into industry, who are educating people and developing competences of people. If we have a look at the whole IT landscape of the company, we can see the following information. So you can see it on the slide. You see that we have a lot of solutions of different kinds, and for us we have created a kind of ideal functional infrastructure, and by doing this, we are trying to find out an optimal solution which could be of interest for the end user. It can be any kind of enterprise, industrial or business, any kind. And the key level of the solutions decision-making process, it's in dark blue. It is the level of decision-making process which can be used at different levels of a company. And this core can be used instead of SAP solutions. It can be a good replacement for SAP technical solutions, and they can be used in our country. All this shows that the platforms do really exist and they can be created, but to create such a platform we need partnership between the vendors and integrators, and we need to create common landscape which will cover business as a whole, and at the same time each and every company and enterprise. And I would like to conclude my presentation with my vision of the tendencies which are going to be in IT in 2023 and maybe in other years, taking into consideration what we had in 2022 and all the changes. First of all, a big trend is for smart devices, smart technologies. States, companies, enterprises will be spending much more money to invest and to implement technologies. Number two is information security. Any kind of implementation, any kind of technical solution will be going through the process of fault tolerance and security. Then there will be a great use of machine learning and artificial intelligence, all these tools which will simplify the activity and life of a company within the company. And a big focus on the development of platform technologies will be on the state sector. It will be the state who will be developing competences of people and fault tolerance systems. And one of the cases of this kind is the project for the development of the state cloud platform. Maybe you've heard about this. This platform was developed, Gostech was developed by Sberbank for the state sector of economy as its analog via platform, which will become the basis for the domestic developments. We, as IBS company, participated in the development of such platform, and we are planning to implement such platform for different levels, commercial organizations, for local authorities, for the state authorities, and of course we'll be observing the world technologies. Maybe it will be a look from a side without, of course, experience exchanging, but it will be difficult to develop our technologies, Russian technologies, without the look at the foreign technologies. But I'm sure that we will be able to do everything. Thank you very much. As a moderator, I will have this right to ask you the first question. Yaroslav said that business models are very difficult for standardization in terms of management. It was Yaroslav Kabakov. Can you say that your platforms are design solution for different kinds of organizations? For which kind of organizations? Is it for servicing companies, for what? These platforms should be developed individually for macro sector of economy, because industrial companies require some parameters of the platform. The servicing company requires some other parameters, but the core, the basic of this platform can be unified. But as for around this core, all these aspects will be developed according to the necessities of the company. If we're talking about a production company, these production companies should have a lot of business processes related to the governments of the machinery, of the rig, and so on. If we're talking about the servicing company needs more management of CRM and logistic personnel. It is how we see it as an IT company. And for us, the key function here is like the key and financial sectors are very important. But as for the personnel planning, it's something different. So you mean that there will be individual, customized solutions? Well, I see. And the second question is about the so-called digital maternity. Or it does not mean anything to you. Maybe it's not so important for the adaptation. What about the digital maternity of the organization itself? We're talking about large companies of the Russian Federation. These companies are already mature, and this kind of platforms is implemented without the technologies which have left the Russian market. So these platform solutions will not be applicable for SME, small and medium businesses, but as for big companies and organizations who already have had some experiences with big processes. So for them, these platforms will be very, very good. Do you have some other questions now? I think that just one thing I would like to do, welcome, and I would like to thank our previous two speakers. They have high positions and they cannot be here longer time. They are one of our most outstanding graduates of our university. Let's welcome them because they need to go. Thank you. Yesterday, the rector of the university said that it's a kind of waves how the work is being organized here.
And the next speaker is Albert Walovsky. The floor is yours. Greetings. So it's not so easy to be a presenter after these renowned speakers. My presentation is a bit simpler. And go back to the topic, transformation of management platform due to the development of artificial intelligence. And today, there are many discussions around platform systems in terms of management, but many are forgetting the artificial intelligence and its role in platform solutions. If we look at the evolution of platform solutions per se, we can trace 7 steps of their development. How did it started? Searching systems, and now the most renowned and the broadest platform solution that we are using is here online. Then we've got hostings. They were transferred to marketplaces, and all the development was due to the increase of computational capacities. And to make a cross-platform solution, you needed to get big data with operative solutions that could process this. Then there were chats. By the way, I would not agree here with the first speaker, Yaroslav Alexandrovich, about the useless features of ChatGPT, for example, because there is a very good example in Germany when there was one guy who contacted service center, was speaking to a regular chatbot, and after the 3rd or 5th contact, he was connected to the state governmental bodies, and he was very quietly happy that people were solving this. And by the way, he was just contacted ChatGPT, and he did not realize that he was speaking to the artificial intelligence. There is the principal difference between the chatbots that we've got used to work with and the new chatbots that are based on this new system, neural network GPT-4. Then we have arrived at cloud solutions, ecosystems, and I think the most important for us is ecosystem of Sberbank that they try to build, and the last is digital twins. By the way, the discussion around these solutions, there are many of them, and starting from social abundance, then to digital gulag, and therefore there is no overall field, and it's not so easy to forecast how it will be developed. Everything is a dichotomy, like globalization, atomization, and we understand that the more quantity of users you have, the lesser is the price. For example, ChatGPT that I will get to will give you a possibility for $12 a month work instead of a designer, speaker, PR, and the more users you will have, the less will be the price. But the last recent event showed that the owners of these services are holding you very tight. And in terms of the manageability and security, this is not a good solution, and we don't know where it will come. It doesn't play a role whether it is a state or region activity, because a certain region or state can have a good platform solution. It is getting through the resources, and other regions will be affected, misaligned. And there is the question where to go to. The same is state control. What is better? What is the best? If all the platforms will be in a communist mode in the state, this is one case, or private corporations, Gazprom, Sber, and they will have all your private information, and they will use it as a tool to manage your life. There are pluses and minuses. Then advertising, addressed help, and so on and so forth. Going back to chats, to platform solutions on the level of search engines, the search engine doesn't want to help you. They are selling advertising. They are selling you the solutions. Finam is not making you happy. Finam is selling the product and making money. If I will help you, the system will give the answers. There will be no advertising. And how can I monetize this? There is a conflict of interests to be developed towards the digital solutions to help you or to work against you in this realm and to sell information to you. There are many of discussion issues here. They are contradicting to each other, and there is the question where it will go to. The time will show. There is a huge field of forces, and by the way, artificial intelligence is calculating variants of the development of the future. But at the same time, they are different. And the practice is showing, if we look at the global historical events like Hitler or Bolsheviks, for that time, artificial intelligence would not be able to understand how they came to power because there were no initial ideas that would lead to this. And the GPT-4 capabilities, generation of illustrations, that means end of work for all the designers. The pictures are generated free of charge and very rapidly. Again, all these functions are provided for $12 per month. $12. And then texts, work with text. If you are into science, you will need to read 20 articles, and the GPT, the chat, would give you a gist. You don't have to read anymore. You provide criteria for search, articles, and then it is a gist that is provided by the network. Voice presentation. You can write down your emotionally texts, and the GPT will read it for you. Drafting of a program code, and this is the death for the majority of programmers. The most simple programs are generated on every language that you would offer. At the same time, this is the short way, because I'm a programmer. I can understand how I earn money. I do not need additional strings. I don't have to compile this or edit this. There are no mistakes. ChatGPT is provided for legal documents. I don't need these simple armies of legal specialists that, in our case, there is the simple question in the precedent law. There are many documents, and the system knows about the documents. Mailing, shaping of business strategy on the basis of the data which is present. It can give a business strategy for organization. Online training, as I told, a very simple training in the school, and they say that there will be in universities, use in university. It is not only telling you about the facts, it is using your face with emotional mimics, and it's mimicking the communication with you, and you don't understand who is speaking with whom. Writing books, okay, it is used, and then services. What is the difference here? Look, when the first platform solutions were onset, they were not using AI. This was digitalization of certain functions. First generation of AI was simplified. It was like this. The programmers were giving certain programs, algorithms, and the system was fed by big data, and the system was trained by big data. Today, if we speak about neural networks, GPT-4, it has the other situation. It doesn't have algorithms. The network is generating algorithms by itself. It's like a black box for the tasks, and the efficiency is just different. Just three examples here. The first, on the basis of regular AI, when you are dealing with face recognition, efficiency is 75%. The other thing is just training, matter of training. The more it will work, the more consistent it will be, because human is defining what are the points on the face, if this is yours or not yours. In the new generation of network, you do not provide for the points, and still it has 99% of accuracy to define you. Just a simple example. In internet 2 days ago in Chelyabinsk, there was a doll in the car, and therefore the AI for the first generation was thinking that this doll is a real passenger. It was not with the seatbelt. And this system here today has no problem of that kind. It's like a human and cockroach. If the first AI is a cockroach, cockroach has algorithm, and that's all. The second generation is choosing algorithms for itself. And this is the difference. When GPT-3 was onset, Yandex and Google did not work further with their pilotless transports, UMV, and they were giving the algorithms, and they understood that algorithms should be defined by the machine in the end of the day, because as you can see, nobody is speaking about unmanned transport. GPT-4 was realized in November, and many are thinking this is the more efficient system. And we in our agrarian university have the other situation. We have two models. The one is for the branding of the animal, and we were tracing the animals. We were dealing with the code for 5 years. There are not so many of these things. And together with the new AI, everything what we were doing was scratched off. And you need to forget about the last 5 years, because the next solution is costing nothing. And this was the second generation. Who would not say that there will be the third one? And on the basis of what I've said, we think that the transformation of platform will be the next. We understand that sooner or later there will be digital state, but still, who will give the tasks to this digital state, and who will be behind this digital cloud? Like, not we've decided this, but machine. But what were the tasks? Management of enterprise, it's a simple. And for the state will be able to look at the work of the enterprises. You will not be able to alter your statistical documents, and you will not be able to counter the state. And I think we will be within this framework. And personalization of homescapes. Again, everything will have codes of access and so on. Of course, there will be people who are against this. They will live somewhere to the north, or they will accept this new reality. And at the same time, the majority of the structures will be more horizontal. Why do we have vertical structures? This is the matter of communication. Like, there are 10 or 7 people who are working with me. If I will meet them, I will not communicate to them. There is no problems of that kind at the artificial intelligence. And the majority of the issues are within horizontal plane. More limitations will be here in our life, and computer-assisted vision will be developed. And this is the second part with which we are working. We had a program for computer-assisted vision. We were tracing the hertz of hands, and everything should be now made as the new tool, because the newest system is giving the criteria more for the tracing of animals. And that's all from my side. Thank you. Albert, thank you so much. You've gave us this impulse, intellectual. Do we have any questions or additional? Could you please send us the link to this program? This is the question. ChatGPT, just Google for it. ChatGPT 3. It was not registered in Russia. Okay. You may use VPN. Tell me, please. There was the question. Okay, now we have this neural network GPT. It is somehow helping with the exams. it is working as engineers, and so on and so forth. What do you think? Will it be a dissonance? What about the future of the universities or educational entities? What do we do with this new reality? The first thing. And the second, what about the connection between human and this chat GPT? Will we speak about physical presence, or we will go back somehow, or the system, because this is generating already video, it can be also be online instead of a human. It can work and be present instead of a human. How this process will be facilitated further, like work, labor, and so on. Look, I have three questions, one by one. The first question that I could think about is about the work of the tutors. Let us speak about not the students but tutors. Yes, there will be the difference. It will work instead of tutors, but there is no tragedy in this. The quantity of young scientists is 5% for Russia, and the line of survival is 12%. To the year 2030, the quantity will be 5 times less. Nobody will be interested in training children. Therefore, digital tutor is somehow mode to tackle the situation. Then, what about the future? Yes, you have right. What about the training together with the GPT? There is this idea that it can be real, but I don't think that the main task of the educational system is to give the education. Previously it was this case, but now this is not the case. Now the high school gives you some connections to the society. You are within the society, within the environment, and it is working on you. You are marinated into it. If you will get artificial intelligence, you will not get the connection. And what about online training? Look, my idea is like this. Before the VR technologies have cost, we will have offline in-presence training. But as soon as this story was started, I think VR helmet was $15,000. Now I can buy it for $400. But as soon as the technologies will be like this, that in the hall, sitting here, I will look at you and don't understand whether you are virtual or live person, it will be offline presence. But as soon as the technologies will allow, and as soon it will be mass use, your personal presence will not be necessary. May I ask one question, please? Or it's out of the micro. Albert Vladimirovich is speaking about these stories that high school is not necessary. But again, the scientists who are into research of the brain, they say that the central nervous system is not changed for many thousands of years. Now we are excluding this and coming back to Neanderthal, or what else? Neanderthal had a more developed brain because there was more insecurity. You've had to make something day by day, and we have a bit too much of comfort. Therefore, I think this is a complicated topic here, but this will be a separate topic of a huge discussion. And the next is Sorokin Sergei Viktorovich. Do we have Mr. Sorokin? No, he's not here. Then Lilia Babynina. Yes, there is video footage. So please do start video footage and let us check how are we dealing with the remote online services. But there will be no dialogue. And let us speak about digital economy, techno-economy and transformation of platforms. And my presentation today is devoted to the Russian platforms for management. The topic is creation of innovative and efficient Russian platforms for management, the current thing and the current prospects. Of course, today we face a unique situation. This is going from the Russian markets of huge foreign companies which were previously taking leading positions also in terms of platform technologies and solutions. Also, we have to take into account sanctions pressure and the problems with implications of foreign financing, and we are seeing more volatility from the internal stakeholders and from the external companies and organizations. At the same time, from the side of the state, there was the evident task creation of technological sovereignty, and this sovereignty in the first line is possible due to the proactive growth of microelectronics and information and communication technologies. This growth will provide for cutting down on the dependence from import, and it will create the possibilities for growth of the other spheres of economy of Russian Federation. Creation of efficient Russian platforms for management is one of the reasons for and basis for the technological sovereignty of Russian Federation, because creation of platforms will provide for cutting on the dependence of international solutions in IT, and it will provide to the other branches of Russian economy to be developed in a dynamic mode without any ramifications of sanctions and other negative results. And it will also provide for a good HR potential, which can be used not only within the information telecommunication technologies, but also in other spheres that are using modern technological solutions. As of today, Russian Federation has multi forms of support of companies and organizations that are into information and telecommunication technologies. These are the tax preferences, for example, grants, subventions, and together with this, state is often providing a warranty for efficient companies realized by the markets. And it also provides and creates the cost, the cost burden that would be lower in Russia than in other countries. And this is the competitive benefit, and it is providing for a better tempo of the development. And together with this, we can speak about high potential of growth in Russian Federation, because the companies, many foreign companies have left Russian market, and the free niche is provided for the other players, which foresees good economical effect for the companies that will take these gaps. At the same time, we have to mention that these foreign companies are ever developing, they are growing, and for Russian companies and organizations to create competitive platform technologies, they need to create non-standard, non-trivial solutions and methods of the support from the state. This can be such as full absence of tax clearance for new companies during 3 years if the year turnover of the company is small, decent, and they do not have these necessary resources for additional costs. Also, technoparks, business incubators, provided as a network, and also together with this is the provision for the companies of free of charge rooms and capacities and creation of any other non-standard solutions that would provide, namely, to make this leap within technological sovereignty happen. As I can see, creation of the efficient and competitive Russian platform technologies for management is a real case, and it can be done. And for this case to happen, there is a necessary resource, HR also, competences, experience, but at the same time realization of this task will provide finally, and in a very brief time, to tackle the problem of the development dependence of technologies in microelectronics and in other scopes, and it also will provide for a good potential for exports of the technological solutions which will be amassed within framework of this task. I want to thank the Russian Economical University for the provided capability and possibility for me to take part at the 5th International Scientific Forum, and also I will be glad to contact you by email, which you see on the screen. Thank you so much for your kind attention, and have a good conference. So, virtually, we are thanking Anton for this. Lilia Babynina, could you please be here in the Presidium? So, greetings, distinguished participants at our round table, and we all understand and see what will be the future for us in education, but together with Pavel and Georgy Alexandrovich, we've decided to speak about one thing, one scope, transport scope, mobility, that we are using. And my today's presentation is a bit corrected because it is stated digital twins of transport infrastructure, but at the same time we are speaking about the readiness of the staff compared to the program and the readiness of the personnel to intellectual management within a transport organization. And the previous presentation, for example, was also bound to the human being and to the HR as a topic. And from the very beginning, let us speak about what is intellectual transportation system. And in this case, I wanted to remind you So, when we are speaking about intellectual transport systems, I wanted to remind you of the fact that there was the strategy, transport strategy, accepted by the government of Russia in November 2021, where significant point was the following: intellectual transport systems, smart systems, and digital twins in transport infrastructure. I think I will not read all this information that is provided on the slide, but I can remind you that the first steps were done here by Japan, by Southern Korea and Singapore. And mainly we're speaking about Japan here, which in 1973 was the first who tried to use these intellectual smart transport systems. And the next slide, where I wanted to remind you what is digital twin. We will skip this slide, and from the very beginning I want to tell you what is digital twin, which was defined by the national standard, GOST standard Russia. Digital twin is a system comprised of models of the hardware and two-sided informational connections or between its parts. What does the introduction of these digital twins give to transport infrastructure? The first, this is the introduction of digital technologies into the transport infrastructure, shaping of necessary competences for the purposes of digital transformation and planning of the qualified staff, training for the qualified staff to be ready to work with this smart transportation system. And here you see the slide, which I think I will not comment on because there is no sense, because you see there are great numbers and the digits are showing us what do we get from the introduction of information smart digital system in transport. And these are the numbers provided by the Department of Mobility in Moscow. If we speak about what is the development of smart transport system in Russia, we, as residents of Moscow, have seen this and feel this indeed. And needless to say that Moscow is a huge city, and this is the sample of smart transportation infrastructure. But at the same time, today we see also correspondent program which foresees introduction of smart transport system into the other regions of Russia. And here, on the next slide, you may look at the points where this information transport system is introduced, I mean smart transportation system, and what are the ambitious plans that are put into the transportation mobility strategy of Russian Federation, starting with the idea that up to 90% to the year 2035, the smart transport system should be introduced into big cities with the less than 200,000 people. And there are just situations for the country that can have their own ramifications. But if we speak for a minute about how or what is the level of the development of smart transportation system, then there is a method that is approved by the Ministry of Transportation of Russian Federation. It has 4 levels. And basically, when we are looking at the 0 level from scratch, these are the basics that are put into the smart transportation system. The second level of mobility system means about management and dispatchment of the processes. Why? Because we do not have now the level 3 and 4. These tiers of smart transportation systems are not created and shaped for Russia. Therefore, we don't know what will be included into this smart transportation system. And an experience here with these transportation systems on the slides, what can we say about the most prospectful and rapidly developed smart transportation systems? I will not recall this because you can see it on the slide. And here, just a little bit, we were speaking about automotives. And now let us speak about railway. Sea transport, where we see the growth in the quantities of goods that are transported and additional capacities that are providing for the turnover of our sea and river transportations. We need to mention that the current situation is provided for this development of this process. If we are speaking about aviation transportations, in this realm we can speak that the concept of coordinated decision making that is facilitated within the system of the aviation transport, it is provided for increase of passenger flow here. And now Valery Vladimirovich was asking the question, and here it is. The question is, what is the level of maturity of smart solutions of platforms for our country? And the first assessment of this maturity level in transport was provided in the year 2020, ordered by the Ministry of Digital Affairs in Russia. And there were 7 elements in this assessment, and we may discuss how these 7 elements correspond to the level of maturity. And the first element is the business model and strategy. Second is digitalization, interface, then digitalization of operations, supporting functions, digitalized digital infrastructure, digital HR, and model of management of digital transformation. And correspondingly, you see the numbers here on the slide that 80% of the companies in transports in Russia are introducing new business models on the basis of digital technologies. 55% of the companies are already realizing these tasks. And the most important task that we face and by we I mean we all, also education, is the task for the preparation and education of the HR specialists, because not anyone, not a single transport system cannot be transferred without training. So I have 3 minutes, and I can speak about this slide here, because here you may see namely the characteristics of digital transformation of organization, transportation, and digital and economical activities which are used by the digital technologies in management. And here on one hand, on the left, you can see the organizations for all the types of economical activities and the types of economical activities in transportation. And we see here that all the economic activities in the year 2021 are higher than compared to the year 2020. But at the same time, if we look at the transportation and storage, we see here the biggest growth delivered by technology of big data, data collection, and geo-information system. If we look at the geo-info introduction with finances, for example, compared to finances, we know this. This is the banking. But I need to say that digital twins and digital twins are not used here very well, because we need additional development, and the development can be done by the specialists who are at the correspondent level of maturity. Here, this slide, we can forget about this, like digital competence, and further on, I wanted to speak for how digital maturity or digital knowledge is provided in professional standards, namely for transportation and mobility. And unfortunately, here I could find only 5 professional standards. There are the necessary knowledge for us to be ready and to be capable to appoint the people who have the knowledge. Which means, at the end of the day, we can speak about the fact that the professional standards that are now today stipulated, they are not fully corresponding to the tasks of shaping of intellectual and smart transportation system, and they are not having the maturity of processes within the transportation, which today is demonstrated in certain other branches. And together with this, professional standards are not showing the new tendencies to new professions, like operator of unmanned transportation systems, designer of digital commercial products, specialist for design of transportation system, and so on and so forth. And the numbers that are now provided here on this slide, I will not speak about this. You can use presentation, but if you will share the presentation, of course, I think. And this problem and this lack in specialists and engineers, there is the problem that is well known to us, demographics, child. We see here the lines that are showing how much there is the influx and outflux of the operators a year. There are some issues also in the transportation. And therefore, I am finalizing here in terms of railway. we are speaking about the concept of the transportation for concept for the January. In January this year, there was the digital uh, the digital analytics and metrics that would show 74% of maturity of the railway staff, because they were using some chatbots for this project, and the apparatus was showing 100% result. For the first try there was a lower result, and for the second try there was a higher result. But at the same time, we can state that because I am every time into HR, this is the key question, and we look at the prospects that are not so bright, really, because the question is here in the philosophy of the approach. What do they do later? What do the people do later? And this, I think, is a great topic for discussion, because today we do not have answer here. It is not a subject of the scientific research. Therefore, you are kindly invited to ask your questions. Do you have any questions? Because I know that there are representatives of the transport. There is a question out of the microphone. The essence of the questions is that you need to speak about difference between the specialists in digitalization and the regular professionals. One thing is to use the program, and the other thing is to create the program. And here, our educational system in all of the scopes is just fragmented. If you take a specialist in transports, the specialist has no knowledge in creation of digital products. If he or she would get knowledge within the transportation sphere, and plus digital literacy, not in terms of use but in terms of creation of the product, this would be an ideal variant. Because, you know, I know about this. There are some numbers about IT specialists. IT specialists who work within the branch, who create this intellectual transportation system, and the users. And I told you about the digital checkup. These are the users. And the IT who are working in the transport, they are the main specialists. But I think that if you work there, you understand something in IT when you came there, because there is the engineer who is putting the task, and he understands in his digital language what they are doing. Because in energy we had the same question. The engineers could not create, could not search for the specialists, and vice versa. At first you are calculating, understanding how the calculation is done, and then you write the program. So, and this is the matter of cooperation. Look, there is the discussion at Innopolis in Kazan. At the conference they are making a collaboration between the Energy Institute, and they send their specialists to Innopolis for the energy sector to preserve the basic level of knowledge, for IT specialists could get some also tasks. Thank you so much for this addendum. We're speaking about symbols and signs. And there is a very important moment for us to switch to the next presentation provided by Lyudmila Petrovna. Real scientists cannot sit, they have to walk, because they remember Karl Marx in his mode. So we have not so much time. If you allow, I have only 4 minutes to go, because as I understand, we are sitting here until the past. So yes, just briefly, the main idea of my presentation is greetings, distinguished professors, distinguished students, distinguished people, guests who are here at my beloved university. What do I want to say here? If we ask a question here, and there is a repeat questions for me, the most important is what is important and what is the most important for every country. We will not lose the time. This is freedom. What gives us freedom? Freedom is provided to us for a country, the technological sovereignty of the country. That means on the screen there are three main documents. Document 400, 166, 203, the decree of the President of Russian Federation, 2 different years, especially last year, which is giving us the possibility to be more precise in speaking about this issue. I wanted to tell the following. We will speak about the recent time. We understand that the political situation is forcing us to this concentration, and the time it's the highest time to do this. Year 22, 5,000 foreign companies. As of now, as of today, in half of a year, we see that 3,000 foreign companies have left Russia, and the process is growing because we see more and more firm packages of the sanctions that are introduced, although we have some countries that are supporting Russia, like Hungary, for example, which is blocking signature and blocking introduction of these packages of the sanctions. But unfortunately, this process is ongoing. And what do I want to say here? As of today, during 1.5 hours, we were listening to many interesting presentations. And the first two presentations, they have shown the significance and the importance of the issues that were developed and presented by the presentations. Yuria Babylin was speaking about the HR as the main issue. And this is a very important moment, an important issue. Why do I speak about this? There are two presenters from the leading companies of Russian Federation, Mr. Kabakov and Mr. Rizontov. They were studying at the board 15 years ago. The board, as the name was, the management or innovations. And this is the quality of the specialists who were educated here. And Professor Velikorosov is doing this and supporting us in this work. And we wanted not chatbots or not artificial intelligence who would be the trainer for our specialists, but we wanted to get some information and knowledge from live people. And here there is one of the most important issues, the training of the staff, of the educators. And further on, this all is a part of technological sovereignty. And better control, platform, infrastructure, technology solutions, this all is provided by the law and bylaws, and this is providing for legal infrastructure, which is providing us for further steps to be done as the company. Then we see the federal, regional levels and training organizations, for example, educational organizations and bodies as Plekhanov University. And the main state support is here provided on the screen every time. In television and radio, we may listen to this. There are really interesting projects. There is business, currency control, lьготы, subventions, HR support also, and also military preferences, and also simplified labor support for the foreign citizens. Until the 15th February, there was the serious subvention support for IT technologies up to 2 billion that is granted by the state. This is the support of IT companies, young specialists, and from our point of view, we think that this is the huge step towards the prevention of serious HR specialist leakage and outflow from the specialists from country. We have plus 80% cyber attacks. We know about this, and unfortunately, we've seen this as a massive case uh, of cyber attacks for different cities, different companies, and unfortunately, economy is subject to this. And we see also the problems from the side of phishing sites, calls, and during the recent time, less than 1 year, 13 billion of rubles were lost, were stolen. Um, and as the police is stating, this is somehow made by physical entities who are providing this for this. Then new restoration of new HR policies, work in schools, programming courses. But here again and again, you see the things that are done, they are presented on the screen. But the most important thing is creation of infrastructure of the level which would provide for young people not to leave Russia, not to leave the country and work here. Because I want to speak about this openly. Unfortunately, this is a very topical issue as of today, and the outcomes of digitalization, as of now, we can see it. The first place in Europe in terms and the quantity of internet users, and this is just the primary information, 10th place in the world in data centers, but the process is growing and we are growing because there is the necessity in growing up and building up these processes. Digital maturity of Russian Federation as index is 0.897, but unfortunately we are not seen as the leaders here, like South Korea. We see digital services, state services, we see it on the screen. I beg your pardon for the speed of delivery information. And the digitalization here in the year 2022 is, like you see, there is the sanctions. And although we see here the IT companies that are growing in quantity and in quality, we see the new 157% growth and plus 30% of growing of the sales in Russian software servicing. Also, banks like VTB as a leader has 50% of the bank machines that are working in the united cloud. And what do we see here? Mr. Timoshenko stated this as a very interesting fact. The instruments and the policies of import replacement, we can see here, they are done here. They will be done later also. As the result, the radio electronics market in the year 2030 would grow by 17 times, 17. High quality of the development of the apparatus support, components, databases, basic stations, substations, and so on. And the key priorities in IT strategy: digital safety, import replacement, digitalization. These are the topics what our colleagues were delineating and deliberately speaking about this. And this is the very important topics. We cannot forget its actuality, and it has a huge value for creation and betterment of technology sovereignty of the Russian Federation in the next years. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Distinguished colleagues, we need to be conscious of time. The section is finalized, but I think perhaps one presentation we will do. And perhaps we will speak about energy here. Mr. Tarasenko should be here, I think. Here. She's not here. She's not with us. Therefore, I think Mikhail Morozov will replace her right now. Mikhail, you have a similar presentation about digital transformation. Will you please unite it with Tarasenko? Therefore, please be conscious of time, because we have some interests of the presenter and there are some interests at the audience, and we need to get it. So So I think, colleagues, I wanted to speak about this. We don't have enough time, so therefore I think in the operating order we will do this. So there is the article, I provided the article, this will be in the presentation, and we will provide the presentations for the audience, and there is also email in the presentation, and you may have a direct contact related to all the questions. Thank you very much. May I say a couple of words? Ms. Baburina was delivering here, and she was speaking about very interesting topics, and it will be very important because if the specialists within the branch there are some IT specialists, and there is the gap between them. It is not filled. Therefore, we need to develop this. So in the Soviet Union, there was a new specialty, applied mathematics, for example. This was this bridge between IT sector and specialists. So we will enter this into the recommendations of the sections. Please do not forget about our story and about our development. Thank you. Thank you to all the participants. Over and out.